Shall we get rolling? Bienvenue à toutes et à tous. Welcome everyone to the Global Regeneration Colab session as part of the Lauriers de la Regeneration. And several of us who are here from the Global Regeneration Colab are going to explain to you our projects and how we connect to the Colab, and we'll talk a little bit at first about what the Colab is. And I think in the fashion that's appropriate for us, we're also inviting conversation from those of you who are joining us to join and share your projects as well, or ask questions or comments or anything as we go. So welcome. I'm Andrew Crosby. I've been a participant in the GRC since very close to the beginning. And I'm also the founder of Third Horizon Earth, which I'll tell you about towards the end of our session. Just a little bit of context, the Global Regeneration Colab started in 2019 with the efforts of a few people, but most notably David Hodgson, who was a super connector of a person. And he was connecting so many people that he decided that it would be best to create a platform where they could connect themselves and work together. And the GRC, as we call it, Global Regeneration Colab, has grown from this little seed of helping others to interact with each other into a fairly formidable group, a very loosely knit group of people that operates today. So with that, I'm going to just pass it over to Nikki. Nikki is part of the team that is helping to manage the GRC, and let her explain a little bit more about it. And then we will, hey, good morning, Jeremy, good to see you. Yeah, welcome everyone. And then we'll just go through our projects in 5-minute segments. And again, we invite you to comment, question. We'll do it very much like a conversation, okay? So let's start with Nikki, and then I think Artie is up after Nikki, and yeah, so let's have fun. Go ahead, Nikki. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you. And something's going on here. Sorry, I need to just turn something down really quick. Give me 1 second. I'm so sorry. Okay, I apologize. I thought that I had a double going on there. Nope. So as Andrew mentioned, I am a part of the activation team for the Global Regeneration Collaboration, which is more of a collaborative laboratory as opposed to a full-scale collaboration of the whole group together. There'll be various pods of people or individuals seeking support and whatnot. My role is to participate in things like the orientations, helping guide people, connecting them with the appropriate resources that they might be looking for within there. And currently we have over 1,200 members. We're getting close to 1,300 now. And I'm going to share a quick slide here. If Andrew, do I have screen share access?
You should be able to do it, Nikki.
Okay, bring that up right now. I want to show our map to give a little bit more of an understanding of how broad our organization is. We actually have representation on almost every continent. So in the Oceania area, we have 52 various projects, and these are individuals. So individuals from Oceania that are working on various projects, 62 from the Asian continent, 25 from Africa, which is an area we're hoping to build and find more people that we can support, 345 throughout European continent, 644 in the North American region. That includes everything from Canada all the way down to Panama, with projects all over in almost every single country there, and 58 in South America, with every country in South America being represented. In addition to that, we have been supporting several successful projects that were launched through the Global Regeneration Colab. And we also have weekly think tanks, if you will, mini think tanks on various topics, including Andrew Crosby's weekly Regenerative Insights, which is a little more of an open flow. Then we have a regenerative economics, regenerative lifelong learning, regenerative agriculture, regenerative governance, and much more, including a co-working space, a virtual co-working space to support people. And everything we do is on an individual choice basis. So there's no real assigned, roles in this. Everybody chooses their place. I got invited to be a part of the activation team because of how active I am within the ecosystem. But generally speaking, I choose what I'm doing and how I do it. And we are always looking for more people to join us. So I'm going to go ahead and share our link in the chat to join if anybody would like to. Is there anything else you wanted me to mention, Andrew? Or talk about?
Yeah, thank you, Nikki. I would just, if I can add a little bit on my part.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So I would say also, Nikki was saying we're hosting calls and I host one of them. And one of the things that we noticed is that just bringing people together regularly, not necessarily with the intention of doing something specific, has had tremendous benefits. So creating the space enables people to identify each other and understand each other in a way. So we started out with this idea that we were all going to come together and co-work, and what turned out to happen, at least in the case of the meetings that I host, is that people didn't really want to co-work or do these projects together to start with, but they came and met each other and ended up collaborating with the others outside of the meeting. So we invite any of you who aren't part of the GRC to join, but also if you want to just talk about what it is and how we do it, we're happy to help support anyone else's efforts. You want to?
Yes, and yes, that this is an invite-based community. So there is a trust system that happens to make sure that we're always bringing in professionals and so forth. It's not a just open social community, although we are very social with each other. It is a professional community crossing all sectors and industries. So this invite is for those obviously that are here as professionals, but yeah, so it is a trust-based system in that regard. Just wanted to add that as well, so everybody knows this is a very focused group and there's not any shenanigans.
Thank you again for all the things that you're doing that are fantastic. It's great to host all those projects popping up. Thank you again.
Thank you, Johnny. Yeah, pleasure. Any comments or questions while we're here? No, there's plenty of time. We'll have plenty of time to chat as we go. So if there are no comments or questions, and also any comments from any of the rest of us who wanted to do, we're open for that too. But if there's no additional comments right now, why don't we go to Artie? You good, Artie, to give a little talk on co-regen.
Sure, and I'm just going to share my screen. Okay. Good morning, everyone. Alors, si vous buvez du café, du thé, du chocolat chaud, du jus d'ananas, ça va vous intéresser. I co-founded a startup which is about working with agricultural or food processing companies, right? So agriculture from a cultivation perspective, but food also from a processing perspective. And for those companies that want to become circular or who have started their circular journey and also want to be regenerative, how can we enable them by matching them with gasification and mining companies so that they can reduce their greenhouse gas emissions? And not just their greenhouse gas emissions, there's a lot more that we do, but the actual carbon dioxide and nitrogen and etc. So removing, reducing and avoiding all of those is something that is actually relatively easy to measure across all the sectors we work in. So that's why we sort of put that in our tagline. And we strongly believe that we can start a regenerative and regenerated agri-food industry from Africa and then help the rest of the world. So if you're wondering what gasification is, I'm not going to go into the details, but at a very high level, it's where we take sort of carbon-based biomass, whether that's waste products or agricultural residues, we put that through low oxygen thermal conversion, and out of that we generate energy and fuels, and today even hydrogen. But for the purpose of this conversation, it's really about energy, i.e. power and heat. And why are we doing that? Because we want to take these different residues, we want to generate this syngas, and out of that, the electricity and the heat, which a sector like tea uses a lot. You know, tea is a very perishable crop, so you need to process it almost as soon as you've picked it. And once you've generated the tea, you've also generated biochar, which is, I think, something that I imagine a lot of people on this call are already familiar with, but that is what is going to go back in the soil. What we are doing, and I'm putting up all these pictures because I want people to appreciate that regeneration, including in Africa, is not just about the soil and human beings. Of course, all of that is extremely important, but it's also about engineering. So you have the gas equipment. What we are doing is providing 0.5 megawatt-hour of energy, or of power rather, but we're also looking at how we can mechanize some of the agricultural processing as well to make it more efficient. And what we certainly want to do is look at generating this biomass for the gasifier. The biochar, we've been testing biochar on tea for the last year and focused really on green leaf yield, so the amount of the green leaf that we get from particular plots. And in both cases, where we applied 1.5 tons and 2.5 tons, we've had a yield increase, and the leaf, as you can see on the right-hand side, is noticeably greener because there's more chlorophyll. We can certainly talk more about that if you like, but I just wanted to put up these charts to show the yield. There are lots more things we want to do with the biochar, including reducing synthetic fertilizer use, especially in the large plantations. And then this is just to give you an idea. When you look at tea cultivation on the left-hand side, it's actually the fertilizer, because it is all imported. So you imagine the complete life cycle analysis of the fertilizer. That is a huge contributor to greenhouse gas emissions from a cultivation perspective. And then if you look at overall sort of cultivation, processing, and to some extent processing of tea, again, the fertilizer is a significant part of that. So whatever we can do to help reduce the synthetic fertilizer use, that's most certainly part of our story. Just that's on our tea side. And then on the rebuilding of soils, we have a multi-faceted problem again. Food isn't as nutritious as it used to be. We've got mining waste. You're going to wonder, why am I talking about mining? And I'll come back to that in a minute. and we have, of course, a changing climate. So with that, what we are looking at, particularly in the Kenyan context, we've got the changing climate is reducing the amount of arable or agricultural land. And this is the forecast on the right-hand side. Already with floods and drought and all sorts of other parameters impacting agriculture and food. It was already a problem. Feeding Kenyans with nutrition was already an issue. We have stunting and wasting and hidden hunger and so on, but it's only going to get worse unless we do something about it. So what we are talking about is regenerating soils through both agricultural quote unquote waste. We avoid the word waste. We use everything but waste, but agricultural residues. So biochar again, but also soil organic matter, and using mining residues, so tailings, overburden, basically what is left from the mines after your jewelry has been made or your roads have been constructed, your buildings and so on. What's left, give it to us, we'll put it in the soil. This is actually the background here is of actual soil rebuilding that we're doing in Western Kenya. And these diagrams just show you how, we're really building the soil through a mixture of crushed rocks and biochar. And the crushed rocks, of course, have minerals. What are minerals? Minerals are nutrients. So that's the process. And I think just to put it into context, this is an experiment that is actually happening. So I don't at the moment have the impact on, in this case, maize, but this is really a little bit more of the science behind it. And you can see here, he's just mixing the biochar and the crushed rocks before it goes in the soil. There's actually two ways of doing it. Either we apply, so we just mix the biochar and the crushed rocks together and then put them in the soil, or we actually put the crushed rocks with the biomass and then we pyrolyze the two together and then put that product in the soil. So we're doing both actually in our experiment. So that's a little bit about us.
Great, thank you, Arti. Any questions or comments? I love seeing your graphics each time they're evolving, Arti. Thank you.
I'm wondering if you do any inoculation of the biochar, Arti.
At the moment, we've got the actual production of the biochar I'm not directly involved in, so I can't directly answer your question, but the artisanal biochar that you saw in the field, that's what we're using today. And in the future, we want to use industrial biochar from the gasifier that you saw the picture of. So I don't think I'm answering your question, but yeah.
Okay. Thank you. Let's keep going. So Usha, how are you today? And you ready to go next?
Sure.
Thank you. Welcome.
Thanks, Andrew, and thanks organizers for having all of us here. So I'll start with a brief introduction, share a couple of slides, and then maybe open for questions. I am Usha, founder and CEO of Janani Regen Ecosystem. We are currently based in Tamil Nadu in southern India. So what is Janani? Janani is a combination of three things. One, first and foremost, we are trying to digitize some of the traditional agricultural knowledge that sort of most of agriculture in India is smallholders. And most of smallholder agriculture knowledge has been transferred generationally within families. And when Green Revolution sort of happened in the 60s, there was a break in the tradition. So there are still farmers practicing regeneration, but not a lot. And they're all much older. And so for us, what we see is we have to capture some of this knowledge, digitize some of this knowledge, and make sure that there is a generational transfer of land that's going to happen within the next decade. in which many young farmers are beginning to sort of be interested in chemical-free, healthy food, and sort of, especially because post-COVID, we see a lot more interest in moving back to the land and sort of trying to figure out how to live and how to grow and how to consume. And so there's an agri-tech platform that does two things. One, it digitizes some of this knowledge so that people just not just within Tamil Nadu, but at a point globally, farmers can contribute to it. It's a farmer-to-farmer knowledge platform. So it's not meant for sort of in Tamil Nadu's case, in India's case particularly, knowledge extension services provided by the agricultural system is still in the sort of not in the hands, but is heavily influenced by chemical and corporate agriculture, industrial agriculture. So to sort of break it, we are trying to bring back the fact that to work on land, to understand your local context, and to apply some of these traditional practices, it's a peer-to-peer knowledge system that is needed. So there's one part of it, that's the knowledge library. The second part of it is market access, where farmers are not just growers, they are also producers, meaning they take some of the products that they have grown and convert it into other things. Like you grow coconut, you convert it into coconut oil. You may grow turmeric, you convert it into turmeric powder. And there is a huge market among themselves. So farmers are not just growers and producers, but they're also consumers. So our agri-tech platform, in a way, enables market access at a very local level, in the sense that when you are trading or bartering or exchanging or transacting, most of it happens within a geographical area. So in the market access platform, as well as in the library, for instance, most of the search is geography driven. I want to see the cow that I can buy within, say, 10 kilometers, because that's the distance that I can go to buy the cow and pick up the cow. So we are trying to enable local economies and local markets among farmers themselves, because in addition to growing, they are also a big, huge consumer segment. And if they can buy and sell among themselves, so the peer-to-peer market access side of it enables that. And then the second part sort of one is the agri-tech platform. The second part is our events and trainings, where we conduct regenerative practices training done by farmers for farmers on farms. So farmers usually walk them through many practices that are actually commonly done before, but had lost cachet, but are now picking up. So one of our very well-attended training, for instance, is vermicompost. How do you create a vermicompost pit on your farm, apply it, and how much do you apply, and what is the result of application? Most of our trainings and most of our practices, in fact, what we encourage farmers is to say, this is something you can do yourself. You should try to do it yourself. But if you're not interested, or if you don't have the time, then you can also buy from the market. So most of the input production is focused on that approach. So most of our events and trainings sort of introduce farmers to these practices and help startups also in that area to scale and grow within the farming community. We have about 12,000 farmers in one single state in India. And with the agri-tech platform, we are slowly moving all of them to the local language mobile app, so they can do all of this themselves. And we sort of provide the backend support, whether it be by the events and trainings and sort of the Regen Lab, that is the third and big part of our work. So it's the Regen Lab that I wanted to talk about today. And I will do that with sort of 2 slides. The Regen Lab is what we see as an R&D lab for small farmers. Because what ends up happening is big companies have a lot of resources as well as facilities to actually do research and development until the product comes to market. Whereas with a small farmer, they have a small plot of land. Average land holding is under 5 acres, about 2.5 hectares. They usually are also cattle farmers. They usually hold 1 to 2 cows, usually a small dairying operation that provides a secondary income. And they usually have some chickens and some goats that also provide a secondary income. But the primary income comes from a part of their land dedicated to cash crops and a part of it for fodder and cattle, dairying. Those are the primary income. So in that case, if I introduced a practice, let's say vermicompost or anything, the farmers will need to risk their seasonal production for a practice that may or may not work. And they will only find out after the season's growth has been done, right? Which means their year may sometimes be lost because cash crops sometimes are 8 to 12 months. So in that case, who will take that risk? How will they manage that risk? So for us, we see Janani Regen Labs as a way to sort of mitigate that risk. So I'll share just 2 slides, walk through this at a very high level and can you see the slide?
Not yet.
Not yet, but it should. It looks, there we go.
Yeah.
We can see it now, or I can see it now.
Okay. Sorry, give me 1 second. Yeah, can you see it?
Yep.
Yeah, okay. And so I am just, give me 1 second. I'm just moving this out of my way. Okay. So how do we see Regen Labs work? This is the sort of a big picture. This is what we call our 100-year plan or the 7th generation plan. One, what do the farmers need? They need to understand what are the technologies. I will use 1 or 2 projects to explain this. The second is we need to work with startups that are working with these technologies. And the third is sort of they need to understand does it apply? How is it applied on a farm? And the fourth element of this is if it is expensive or if it is high cost, high risk investment, what are the other methods of financing? So I'll use 2 projects. One, I'll use sort of rainwater harvesting has been one of the projects. So most of our focus is on soil, water, and biodiversity. Those are the 3 elements. So I'll use a water technology and a soil technology and also connect it to GRC and even to some of Aarti's work also, because we met on GRC and we have been sort of connecting and sharing our notes with each other, trying to figure out how to collaborate. The collaboration has not yet come to pass, but the fact that the meeting happened and the collaborations are going on, it's all thanks to GRC primarily. And that's why sort of no agenda, no set framework, no set platform like GRC helps in the sense that we meet each other and then the collaborations can go on off the platform. So one of the, I think you may have all heard, and maybe some of you are facing these problems, water is becoming sort of a huge challenge, both drinking water and irrigation water. And especially in India, where much of agriculture is dependent on monsoon. So rainwater harvesting is one of the technology that we are looking at. And then for soil, biochar is one of the technology that we are actually now our next event and the next push is on biochar. So if this is these are the things that are at the 100-year plan, how does it shape up in terms of what happens on the ground? Let me know if you can see the next slide. Can you see the next slide?
Mhm.
Okay. So what we actually do on the ground is sort of pick a regenerative soil or water solution. I'll pick, in this case, rainwater harvesting and biochar as the 2 solutions. What we are doing, what we generally do, is that one, it starts usually with showcasing the technology in its farm setting, right? So the trainings usually happen on a farm where the farmer has been practicing rainwater harvesting or biochar for many years and has results to show. Because what we found is that farmers respond really well when it's a farmer to farmer communication and it is on a farm where they can actually see what has happened, right? So the demonstration farms sort of is key. But what also happens is that after they sort of decide that they want to implement a technology, in the case of rainwater harvesting, the cost is about 40,000 Indian rupees, 40 to 60,000 Indian rupees. And then the second part of it is, to all farmers, 40,000 is not, it's about say $40,000, $50. But given that their annual income might be, or their monthly income might be $100, $50 is a big expense. So we have a 3-tiered pricing structure where below poverty line or poor farmers get it for free, middle farmers pay cost, and richer farmers pay cost plus. And the poor farmers, they get their implementation is compensated by CSR funding from corporates. So what happens is that then the farmers not only just see the demonstration, they also get implementation support. So whoever wants to sign up for the lab, they can get implementation support in real time from farmers themselves. So as Catherine's question on biochar is about two things, right? Biochar is about production. The second part is how do you apply? You have to charge the biochar before you apply. And so how do you charge it? And what is the application? If I am growing coconut, it's a different application from someone who's growing rice, right? The two different crops. And so all of that requires a lot of support, but that other farmers can provide. If I am a farmer who is growing coconut, I can provide the biochar application support. Whereas if someone else had done rainwater harvesting, especially rainwater harvesting at a bore well level, then that level of support can be. So we enable that. The implementations and support is key, but the more important part is also then spread that message as publications or as events to sort of focus on spreading the solution. But our focus is how is it context sensitive? If you're in a heavy rain area, your rainwater harvesting structure is going to be different from if you were in a very dry area. The one state that we are working in has 8 different agroecological regions. So each region has its own. So what we see Janani Region Labs and the entire Janani platform, which as I mentioned, the agri-tech platform, the sort of the region labs and the events and trainings, what we see them as is farmer communities that are created at a bioregion level or an agroecological regional level to support each other to create both local markets, local economies, and local agricultural and food systems. So my ask today from the community are 2 things. One, we are sort of looking for partners in this. So if you have any ideas for collaborations, as I mentioned, even within the biochar, we are looking for partners and collaborators, especially funders. If you have contacts with family offices, individual funders, we are also doing a fundraising at the moment. So I'll share all of this right after. But I will stop the share at this moment and open the floor for any questions.
Thank you, Usha. Fantastic. I'm just checking on time also. We've got about 3 more presentations to do within the next 20 minutes or so. So we'll just try and, if there are any quick comments now, let's do them, but then I think let's just keep going so we have time for the people who are remaining to speak. Is that okay? All right. Thank you. So let's go to Catherine.
Okay.
Welcome, Catherine. Good morning.
Good morning. Yes, it's 2 a.m. here, so excuse me if I'm a little strange. So I'm going to share slides, and I think you'll see the connection between the three of us very much so. So we're really about a thing called the bionic pump. And the bionic pump is a new understanding of a lot of old stuff. So I'm going to sort of walk through the pieces of it, and you'll see how we all connect. The bionic pump is how rain happens interior to continents. We're taught the water cycle always at the edge, the ocean piece, and while that is 40% of the rain, 60% of it comes from internal things. So it's all about plants, actually, forest, that really makes that water cycle happen, that pumps. And some research talks about hydraulic regulation, which is what the trees do. And that's all true, but it's the full cycle that really makes a difference. And that is how the flying rivers happen, how water goes from one place to another. So when we deforest here, you may find drought there because the water doesn't make it. So we're beginning to see the world as a whole system. And the thrill that I have about the bionic pump is that it's really, once you understand it, you can support it where you are. And I think that needs to happen now because there's so much pressure to decouple all these systems. And it all starts with soil. So they are saying now that 2/3 of life on Earth is in the soil, that's where the largest biodiversity is. So that obviously is something that we really need to support, as everybody's really talking about. And so the first approach to that is humus, is adding organic matter back into the soil. And that's really key because without that organic matter in the soil will not hold water. It will just go through. And over time, that organic matter will totally change the soil, whether it's sand or whether it's clay. Although sand is more difficult with humus, and that's where biochar comes in because biochar really works very well with sand. So we really support biochar, and it's not a simple thing, it's complex because it does depend on the source and how it's actually made. And we will be doing on June 20th a hybrid meeting, so people are free to join from wherever. It will be at 2 p.m. Pacific time, and the link is on our website. But we're going to do an hour and a half on biochar with Albert Bates and Kelpie Wilson. Both Kelpie's just published a book, both have books, and Kelpie also has a kiln that she's selling. So it's a portable kiln. So we'll be talking about biochar in more depth. And then there's soil amendments to actually put back the critters into the soil that should be there. But it's makes such a difference because for every 1% increase in organic matter, you get 25,000 gallons of available water. And what is true in almost all parts of the world is you get more in rain than you actually use. It just happens at different times. And so it's keeping the water we get, and the best way to keep that is in the soil. So soil is fine, but then there's landscape design, actually designing the land so that it holds water and it allows it to slow down and seep into the ground. So the design of the land is something, again, that we can do if we understand it. We can support what's already there naturally, and that helps the water stay long enough to go down once the soil is helped. And then we add the Miyawaki forest, and this is a program comes out of Japan. It's different in every environment, and they've done it in all sorts of environments from desert to tropical. And it's planting, you plant the forest, which means trees and supporting plants. So you have an ecosystem that is resilient. You plant it all in a day. It's taken care of for 3 years. You water it for 3 years, and then it's self-sustaining. It grows hugely fast, from 2 to 8 times what is normal. You can do it in small spaces, so it's a mini forest. It can be a mini forest. 6 parking spaces for those of you who are familiar with cars. It's not a really big space. It's just picking the plants and packing them the way they grow and then letting them do that. So this is a 2-year forest, and you can see the difference in how fast it grows. So that's our strategy. Our whole thing is getting people to understand the pump, because water comes down, it goes into the soil. If the soil is alive enough to hold the water, then the plants can push that water up into the clouds, and they see not only water vapor, but also bacteria, which helps the water vapor form. And then that goes and rains on another place, which duplicates it. So it's that pump effect that gets water through the entire continent and actually the entire world. So as we make that rich and effective, we can do a lot to cool, because this process also will create about 15 degrees cooler temperature in the land and space. Exposed land dries really quickly, gets hot, and that kills the bacteria in the soil. So it's real important to have that coverage, which is part of the pump. So any questions or thoughts?
Well, thank you. Any comments, questions? Okay. Thank you, Catherine. Thank you for staying up so late. Isabri, would you like to take us like 5 minutes or so and talk about the work that you're doing and how you connect to the GRC and so on?
Yes. Good afternoon, everyone from Kenya. Can you hear me?
Yes.
We can hear you a little bit weakly on my side.
Let me see. How about now? Is that
That's
okay?
better.
That's better. I have my video on, but it's dark. Can you guys see me?
No, we can't see you.
That's weird. Anyway, I'll just switch off video then instead of trying to figure it out right now. So yeah, let me just do a short introduction. My names are Isavari Sheila Habukwe. I consider myself a creative nomad, currently living in Kenya, Nairobi specifically. And I am the founder of Kilifi Culture, a community and business events management company. Our goal in life is to exist in a world where money is not the only means of survival. Yeah. And this is why we are so passionate about what community currencies can do and how they can help us achieve that kind of world where we all rely on each other for what we need to live decently from one day to the other. So it's sort of regenerative economics. It's not, we are still not into practicing permaculture, but we are more into the financial aspect of life at the moment. So we've worked with different communities in Kilifi and Nairobi to advance the awareness and participation in the use of these community inclusion currencies as an alternative payment. So in a way, it also changes our mindset in how we think about our day-to-day lives, rather than waking up in the morning and feeling defeated because your financial situation is not what you expected. The community currencies are a way of us to think differently about how to access our basic needs. Yeah, so at the moment, we've managed to create our own vouchers. They're called DOE vouchers. We have about 100,000 Kenya shillings worth of these vouchers, and we want to advance the use of these vouchers within our community. We're going to start in Nairobi for this year. Yes, for the rest of this year. And being part of GRC has helped me or rather helped us get that kind of support, the moral and the financial support that we need to keep going. So it has been an amazing journey. So far, we've done a lot in terms of community engagement, and we look forward to doing even more within these events as an events company. So yeah, thank you so much, Andrew, for giving me the time. And it was lovely. I'm glad I made the time to be here, and it was lovely hearing Artie's presentation as well as Catherine's and Usha's. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Isabri. Any questions or comments from anybody about what Isabri's been doing? Thank you. That was a really great presentation.
I would like to add, because I forgot to, how GRC has really helped me too. We have been working with Carl Welty, and he's brought somebody else into the organization who's interested in affordable housing, because our focus is really working with cities to get a whole city to be a sponge. So I've gotten a lot of support from GRC, including a game that we're going to be bringing to people to understand soil. So it's been very rich.
Nice, thank you. So I'm the last one presenting, and I'm gonna just say a few words about Third Horizon Earth. So if you'll permit me, I'm just gonna share my screen. Let's see if I can do it. Okay. All righty. So actually, this is a very good timing just to have heard all of you. So Third Horizon Earth is essentially peer intelligence for regenerative transition. And what we're trying to do is take the brilliant work that you're seeing here and in other places and try to cultivate the community of practice and knowledge in a way that's essentially horizontal. So helping people to bring their innovations to each other. And this grew out of, Third Horizon Earth grew out of the GRC. So I started in the GRC back in 2019 and became fascinated with what different people were doing, just like hearing these presentations today, but from many different perspectives and all over the world. And what I realized is that people were innovating in fundamentally different new ways. This wasn't just doing more of the same thing from our old economy. It was really about thinking differently. And I saw that there were many people doing this, but frustrated also. And so I was asking, so who is cultivating this field? And what's like, who's attending to the field itself? And that's essentially the role of Third Horizon Earth. As we met, you know, as I was hosting these Regenerative Insights Circle calls, often I would hear the people frustrated because there was no finance, but behind that are so many different factors, both in terms of our just emerging understanding of what is regenerative development and its potential. We don't really have agreed metrics or markets. There's not really a widely agreed models or languages. Complex system innovation is a new concept. And it's really different than the existing economy. So it takes an integral view of life and economy rather than this separate view that is mostly expressed through our modern economies now. And those economies are also a barrier. So they're basically our social systems, the way that businesses work, all of these things are oriented towards essentially an extractive model where the quote unquote externalities are taken care of by someone else somewhere else. So behind this frustration of finance, we were seeing that there was really this huge amount of systemic work that needed to be done. And that's essentially what Third Horizon Earth is dedicated to doing. So we're trying to help people and tap into the innovation that's already happening in the field and enable people to share it more effectively with others. So it's designed as a regenerative as a regenerative undertaking. The goal is to find, express in context, and enable others to understand and share their own innovation as well. So we're trying to share examples of stories, case studies, research and analysis that's emerging, and also expressive works and art, because artists and interpreters are often the first who are able to synthesize and express new ideas or emerging ideas, often before we have these concrete models or ways of expressing them that we're used to. We're nonpartisan. We're not in the business of making recommendations. We're really trying to create this dynamic within the field that enables people to connect more effectively with what does innovation look like, to be inspired by the work of others, and to be able to share what they're doing for the well-being of the common good. So there's no paywall. Right now we're seeking to just generate this dynamic and become community supported. So where are we now? We're about 1.5 years in. We're an all-volunteer team. I'd like to acknowledge Arti, who's our board chair. She's been with us since the beginning. It has been just a great help in helping to understand where we're going and how to proceed what we're doing. We've got about 6 volunteers currently. We're looking for more. We're really looking for cases, and we're looking to find out how people are innovating. And when I say innovation, I mean an inclusive view of innovation, which could be everywhere from people who are working on the ground to tech. So it could be a full range. It could be traditional knowledge, or it could be just a new way of combining old elements like Catherine's talking about. So the projects that you heard about today are great examples of the kinds of things we're talking about. Some of it doesn't have to be technically complex, or some of it can involve technology. It's really about how are people innovating to create these integrative approaches to development that are different. So we're looking for people who can contribute, both in terms of case studies, who are doing events that may want to make those events more widely known. If there's emerging research, we welcome to see that. Of course, we're trying to connect with funders. We're looking to actually develop Third Horizon Earth as a community-supported operation. So this is a whole stream of our work that is underway in terms of being developed. And we're trying to take on new roles as we can on a voluntary basis for now. And you can connect with what we're doing. Please write to me at info@Third Horizon Earth. We've got a LinkedIn page. We've got a website that is ultimately going to be a deeply searchable resource as we gather different case studies and sources. The website is something that can be filtered and broken down by geography, by topic, and so on. So as we grow, it will become a growing resource for the community as well. So let me stop there. I'll just welcome any contact from anyone related to Third Horizon Earth or the GRC. And we're pretty much on time. And so I think Nikki wanted to say one more thing about GRC, and then I think we've achieved our time. Go ahead, Nikki.
I just wanted to, first of all, thank everybody here for your presentations and sharing what you're doing and all the areas you're doing it in, and invite more people, whoever sees this, to join us. You can visit grc.earth and use the form on the website. One of the things that I think is really important to acknowledge is that we have transparent finance under our fiscal sponsor, which is Inquiring Systems. The GRC itself is a fiscally sponsored, decentralized organization. And so if there's anybody that wants to contribute and help, myself and others are currently working to make sure that we can raise enough to not just manage our tech and our presence, paying all the subscription fees that are demanded there and so forth, but that we can also support some of these projects even if it's through microfunding and so forth, which is part of what I'm working on. So please send any potential, sponsorship grants, things like that, that you're aware of that GRC might qualify for. Be happy to take a look at those and pursue them for the ecosystem at large. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, Nikki. We're just at time. We don't have to cut off this second, but thank you everyone for helping to keep us on track. And we can stay on for a couple more minutes, and if anyone wants to. And I see Sabri. Go ahead, Sabri.
Yeah, I was curious about content contribution. What do you mean by content? You're looking for content contributors?
So those are, in short, the people who have case studies that they can contribute, but we're also looking for people who can help curate around different topics, or even to help us follow and track what's happening in particular regions. I'm happy to talk to you about that more if you like.
Yeah, definitely, for sure. All right, thank you.
Right.
Yeah. Anyone else? Welcome, Brian.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, Brian should talk about his project.
This is, I would just comment, thank you everyone for coming. And I think this is kind of interesting. It's a little bit different format than the regeneration pollination. For those of you who don't know regeneration pollination, kind of like speed dating, but I sort of enjoyed doing these brief presentations. It's kind of nice. Maybe it's worth organizing another session like this, even in the context of GRC or whatever.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yep.
Yep. That was lovely to hear what other people are doing. Very exciting.
Yeah, I like that also. And even though I feel like I know each of you pretty well, getting that like periodic update is really nice. It's like a little shot in the little shot of espresso. Anyone else want to say anything before we close? We'll be sharing the recording and the summary with Jeremy, and I'm happy to share it with all of you who've been here. Just let me know if you want the recording. I'm probably not gonna, or I could post it, but just let me know if you want the recording. It's probably the most effective way to do it.
Yeah, I would definitely like it.
So with that, if there's no other comments, questions, we'll close for the day. Yeah, go ahead, Usha.
Andrew, just wanted to inform everyone that Wednesday at 12 noon EST, Dave is hosting us for walking through the crowdfunding platform that we are using and why we went with crowdfunding.
Yeah.
So please join us. GRC is hosting a session.
Oh, that's great. That's tomorrow at what time?
Noon EST.
Noon, that's American Eastern time?
Correct.
Okay, great. And how do people connect with that if they want to?
It's on the GRC calendar, I think.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, great. Perfect. All right, thank you. All right, folks. So let's call it a day there. And thank you so much, everyone, for joining.